और थोड़ा डाल यार। एक कटिंग दे। गरम चाय।
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Chat with me, Kevin Jairaj. This is where the chais are hot, but the chat is short. Today, we have Miss Wendy Ellerton, a senior lecturer from the Department of Design in Collaborative Design at Monash University. So glad to have you, Wendy.
Thanks for having me here, Kevin.
For the uninitiated, could you tell us what collaborative design is all about?
Yeah, sure. Collaborative design is really about working with others rather than for others. So traditionally or conventionally, when we might think of some designers as service providers, where you get a really clear brief given to you and you respond to that. Whereas collaborative design often involves quite a lot of research at the beginning with the people that might be affected by the designs, or might be a government agency, etc. And you do that research with them, make lots of decisions together. So you're often involved in the design process from their very early stages right through to the end result. I mean, I think we'll probably keep expanding on it as we go through, but it is really about bringing those kind of diverse perspectives and minds together to bring life to something new, which design typically does.
Could you tell us the importance of collaborative design, especially when you're dealing with brands? If you could actually throw some kind of light for students who might want to pursue that.
Yeah, I think when you specifically talk about brands, it's interesting that you bring it together with collaborative design, because we do often find collaborative design is often used in more social contexts. So you might find brands might want to collaborate with an artist, but it might be slightly different in that the artist might come up with some initial concepts and then those might be applied in kind of a branding space. Whereas collaborative design will often involve sort of very complex processes. So there might be a government organisation, healthcare providers, the people that are impacted by a particular intervention or health interventions coming together. So it's interesting that you use the kind of, how does it connect to branding or brands? Because I would often say it connects more closely with organisations and entities that are concerned with social impact.
What are the fundamental aspects of design work that a collaborative design thing actually entails?
Yeah, so a collaborative designer, and this is where you could be a collaborative designer and also work with brands, in that a collaborative designer will often bring particular mindsets to a project. So one of the kind of things that they will be looking to do is to use participatory means. So they'll look to engage different people within the process. They'll approach it with a sense of respect and honesty because they really appreciate relationships. So that's something that's always emphasized. So everyone needs to feel safe, heard, like their knowledge is contributing, irrespective of whether they have lived experience or whether they're a professor in a particular field. That really means that you have to approach each person that you work with a sense of respect and openness, recognizing that they contribute to the final outcome. So I would say the mindsets are really important. It means that you also have to be willing to share power, because sometimes as a designer, a collaborative designer, you need to recognize that you can't be the gatekeeper of everything. Sometimes other people need to influence what decisions are made, etc. So I would say the mindsets are particularly important, and the principles as well.
So it's essentially a good amount of teamwork where you got to actually know how to encourage, how to cut back a little bit, how to compromise sometimes, or how to empower most of the times.
Yeah. And these are quite, these interpersonal skills are things that often aren't explicitly taught in design disciplines. Some people are naturally better than others. And a lot of designers have a lot of trouble in this particular area because we see our work so closely connected to our ego that it can be hard to let go. So I like to think of collaborative design as a sort of more eco approach to design, and we let go of our ego and recognize that design is the result of many different things that are constantly changing, not just our own vision or aesthetic vision for something.
I think it's one of the best fields to actually have. Imagine politicians working at this level. It'd be so cool if you could actually have them thinking together towards one project. And you happen to mention a lot of soft skills that are actually necessary in the field of collaborative design. Could you throw some light on the actual skills that, say, a graphic designer or an artist would need to consider collaborative design or to, excel in it?
Yeah, so in collaborative design at Monash, so we talk about it, design quite broadly.
Yeah.
So it's transdisciplinary. So you could still pursue what we might traditionally say a graphic design or a communication design expertise, but you'd probably be building these more explicit interpersonal skills at the same time. Equally, you could have more of an industrial design orientation, but really you're starting to build those people skills so that you can work with different practitioners, medical practitioners, etc. So we don't really focus in collaborative design on specific types of outcomes. So I wouldn't specify it needs to be a book. Okay. It needs to be a website. We really focus on the purpose and the overall challenge that we're facing, and then through a range of research activities, we determine the most appropriate outcome. And so that might mean, as a designer in an educational space, if you have a tendency to like interaction design, it might mean that you pursue an interactive response. So you're not bound by a specific type of design outcome. You're really bound by the thematic and the purpose.
That's really, really interesting, especially if for a person who actually would be interested in the project rather than the theory part of it and the study part of it. Could you tell me what would be the potential career paths and the opportunities for someone who actually graduates from collaborative design, especially at Monash University? How does a person who's actually completed a collaborative design program at Monash, how does the world open up for him?
Yeah, it depends what type of organization they want to go into. So they could go into a traditional sort of design studio, but typically they'll be larger studios that require a range of different types of thinkers. We have some students working within government doing service design. So often there's this layer of complexity to the work that collaborative designers do because there's lots of different variables and inputs. It might mean that they continue practicing as a web designer, etc., but often they're required to have knowledge that can transcend the discipline, so that they can work with somebody from marketing, a scientist, etc., and bring all of that knowledge together.
What at Monash, I'm speaking like a student who would be interested in actually joining Monash Department of Art and Design. What would you be looking at for a student who actually wants to join this program?
Yeah, I think with collaborative design, one of the things that's really important is this eagerness to learn and to be open to learning and using design as a method to learn, because we are often engaged in projects or challenges that are outside our expertise. So say, for example, in collaborative design, our topic that we're looking at this semester is looking at generative artificial intelligence and how we use that responsibly. Now, many of the students, I know it feels like a hot topic if I'm talking about generative AI, but for our students, it's really new to them. So they're not familiar with this area of generative AI, but there needs to be this openness to be able to critique, to engage with it, to learn through doing with the tools and with others.
Basically, besides the skills, the student needs to be research driven, needs to want to know more. Is there any kind of how do I actually put this, guidance towards right now, as you nicely mentioned, that AI is the trending thing that's really going to happen. In your expertise, where is all this going? What is going to be the next thing that would need to be introduced? Because students here are just catching up with AI. A lot of people are using generative content as such and are looking out online. What are the trending things that you see coming up in the immediate future, especially for our students to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think in the field of design, we, when I was a student, say 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of discussion around the philosophy or design having a more socially responsible sort of position. And I think more and more as we move forwards with some of the kind of global challenges that we're facing, we're realizing that design needs to move beyond the aesthetic, beyond just a branding or marketing exercise of a product, service, or system. And as designers, we need to be responsible and be critical for the things that we're putting out there in the world. But also, we're seeing that businesses as well and governments are starting to recognize that actually designers can contribute quite a lot to bringing people together. We make things that connect people. And that's where collaborative designers, I think, will be really important moving forwards. And we start to see that in a lot of the government tenders, etc. They're asking for collaborative design processes. So finding ways of working which are more inclusive rather than exclusive, which sometimes design has typically gravitated towards, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I think in education, we're seeing it, a lot of the projects in the program that I deliver connect to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I think there's sort of things that we're looking at. And as a part of that, you see things like generative AI. How do we engage with it responsibly? What are the implications if we don't? We can't just make decisions on the behalf of others that affect their lives with data that is biased, and it's designed in that way. So as designers, we need to be really critical of what we do.
It's important that we use it rather than it use us, and we've got to actually figure out the ethics and thing of actually using it. Thanks for this. Just one last question that I actually had which is very, very specific to the curriculum in collaborative design at Monash, especially if you could highlight just feature points of what all would be actually covered during this entire program.
Yeah, so the program, it's our newest specialization at Monash, but one thing that's quite different to the industrial communication and spatial design programs is that all of our projects take work from sort of hypothetical spaces into real world contexts. So we might be exploring, say, for example, I said generative AI, but we'll be doing that with a range of researchers, and then we bring in experts within the space where students are designing tools, frameworks, etc., and they're sharing that back with stakeholders from Monash University. So their work can potentially have real impact. So I think that's a key factor, is we shift from sort of a siloed student-based world where our projects are only seen by other students and our teachers to expanding it to other people within industry and within the university context. And that means they may have a life beyond that semester. Or at the very least, they're part of the ongoing dialogue around that topic. But these are complex challenges, and also we're not expecting our newest students to be able to flourish without any kind of scaffolding of that experience. So initially in our first and second years, they're exposed to practitioners doing this type of work. So we do a whole range of workshops with those practitioners, and they start to see the tools and things they bring into class, like how they facilitate these knowledge gathering sessions. And then we kind of unpack them and reimagine them. So we experience, we analyze what we've experienced, and then we recreate initially. But by the time we get to third year, we sort of let go of some of that scaffolding, and students pursue those topics in the way that they feel is appropriate.
It's really, really nice. I mean, I'm sure it's a exciting career path, an exciting program to actually take looking at the future, because it encompasses so many things, and it actually helps you to work with, so an appropriate use of soft skills and hard skills to actually think of the future. Thanks, Ms. Wendy Ellerton.
Thanks,
and
Kevin.
yeah, it has been really a pleasure talking to you. Hope to talk to you more in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for your time.